Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the December 2024 Comprehensive Astrology. I'm so excited to be coming on today and reading for you all, giving you some intuitive insights that I'm getting about December 2024, as well as putting some charts up on the screen later in the video to talk about the specific transits we will be having. Welcome back everyone. We do have a turning point coming up during December. We have some really rare transits and really different types of energies coming in that are not super customary. Okay, so yeah, we're going to have to really spend a lot of time digging down into this energy. First off, everyone, I want to invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Turn on the bell notifications and keep an eye out because yes, I have two really important videos that I will be live premiering. Currently, we are doing live premieres every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, all the way up until December 20th, where we will live premiere the 2025 year ahead forecast video, which will be a multi-hour video with interpretations for each sign. And that will be live premiering on December 20th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I hope that you can all mark your calendars and come to that. Also on December 13th, the Friday before that, I will be live premiering the Global Dynamics video for the last chapter of 2024, where we'll come back and analyze some of the meanings from the 2024 year cycle. And there will be live premieres between now and then as well. But I just wanted to remind you all that those probably two most important videos of the year will be going up on the 13th and the 20th if you wanted to attend the live premiere. Also, yes, there are free trials available on my Patreon page linked below. Over there, you can get all of the readings for each sign every month, and I do weekly forecasts as well. It's currently free to try it, and that will only be available for a limited time for the duration of the live premiere season, so definitely come and check that out too. That is linked below. So yes, without further ado, let's talk about the intuitive messages of December 2024. The first thing that I got about December 2024 is there is a really poignant end in sight. Okay, this could have also already happened by the time that Pluto crossed the cusp into Aquarius. This is our first full month with Pluto in Aquarius being totally done with all of the retrogrades on the axis of Capricorn and Aquarius. So there should be something really ending. Okay, we also have a very strange transit of Jupiter and Mercury in debilitated mutual reception. I'll talk more about this in the astrology section, but it's really forcing us, I think, to start thinking differently about some elements of our life. And there would definitely be a major syndrome during December for a lot of people, whether this is happening to you or maybe someone around you, of just coming really like face to face with an undeniable realization that, you know what, I haven't been thinking right about certain things. I've been maybe making certain things bigger than they have to be and maybe exaggerating certain issues in my life, or I've been minimizing also severely important issues, as this is mainly the dynamic with Jupiter and Mercury. Obviously, Mercury being debilitated and retrograde in the Jupiter sign, right? The smallest planet in our solar system, Mercury, being in the largest planet sign, Sagittarius. This creates a dynamic of exaggerating something that's too small. And then also Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, being debilitated in the Mercury-ruled sign of Gemini. It's not only that they're retrograde, it's not only that they're debilitated, they're also in what we call mutual reception, where you have one planet in a sign that rules the other planet. So this is basically what I see this to be, and this is important to talk about in the intuitive messages section, is that there's a focus problem, there's an attention problem, something that is not that big of a deal is being blown out of proportion, and something that actually might have, in some cases, like life or death connotations is not being considered and being minimized. And I definitely invite you during December to think about, like, is there anything in my life that's evocative of that, where I keep hammering into something that's been done and done and done, maybe trying to solve a problem that isn't there, or you definitely see a lot of issues with like attention deficit or obsessive compulsive disorders, or anything like that could be something that we want to really be prepared to work with in a responsible way, having that good therapist, making sure that we're Also, if there are any health issues, whether it's physical or mental health, obviously this channel cannot really talk about that in any specific way, but know who you can talk to about those things. Having those resources available will be very important in December, as a lot of people will get to sort of a breaking point in some cases, and this can be just across the spectrum, whether it's a health issue, whether it's blowing out a financial issue, like finally swinging into a deficit, whether it's a certain like unsustainable business practice or some kind of unsustainable labor or job or loop in your life. Don't freak yourself out if that's in your life, because I feel like everybody's there at some sector in their life, whether it's romance, relationships, what have you. Everybody is having to come face to face during this time with like a very long-running issue or long-running circumstance, right? The entire 2008 to 2025, honestly, connotation, basically, I guess like 17 years, 18 years, are going to now be totally tested as to the relevance, accuracy, and meaning of those stories, and that which can come forward will, and that which can't won't. Yet at the same time, people might be focused on that which can't coming forward and disregarding that which is really important that's already there for them. So we have an attention crisis. We have a focus crisis. What are you thinking about every day? What are you prioritizing? Hierarchy of priorities would be a really important thing to consider during December of 2024. Although I also feel that by this point in time, as you see, we had a really wonderful chance throughout the entire 2023 year cycle to really reprioritize and to kind of heal certain things that were in deficit or misappropriated. So if it's still here, here's why it's hard. Here's why we're at this crisis point. If we struggled to kind of reappropriate our life or kind of reproportion it or reproportion our focus and maybe even, where we are, where we're placing ourselves as well, a very locational kind of proximity-oriented karma is playing a big role for a lot of people during this time. If it's still forward here, the thing is it's compounded. So we have and this is the thing about the, opposition, Jupiter, Mercury, debilitated, mutual reception, retrograde. That's not just going to be like knowing that there's a problem. That's not just going to be being faced with a problem. That's going to be like a compounded, long-running knot that has to be worked out, which brings me into one of the intuitive messages that I have written down for this month ahead, which is implementing meaningful changes based on discomfort, okay? Keeping our eyes on discomfort. And further, what kind of discomfort is it? Is it a productive discomfort or an unproductive discomfort? I think this language is really important during this time because it just feels like an uncomfortable transit, but it has some type of reason behind it. So we have to really, I think, get into the discomfort and really start to make language around the discomfort. On one hand, understanding how this happened, what contributing elements led me to be here. That will heal a lot of it for you just by understanding those connecting points, because then you can just pull those out or change based on those. But also, I could very much see that we don't really have I almost want to say the bifurcation right between productive and unproductive discomfort. So for example, maybe rebuilding our core strength after many years of not focusing on it could lead to a lot of discomfort, but ultimately that's productive and a good thing. Also, undoing some type of deep knot, like a muscle knot, through a deep tissue massage could cause discomfort, but ultimately that's a productive and good thing. As compared to a compounded emotionally abusive relationship still being forced to continue and just continuing things, making things worse, compounding negativity without any real problem being solved, this would be an unproductive discomfort. Also, say having a stress injury, So like, say you've got like, let's just use that previous example, like maybe a pulled muscle or something in your body that's like hurt. So productive discomfort would be like getting therapy for that, would be getting a good masseuse or something, or whereas unproductive discomfort would be continuing the exercise that like caused the problem. But I think a lot of people here are struggling to like bifurcate this, and they might just continue going down the loop and continuing to compound the problem. I also see this with spending. So we've got some type of spending habit that might be like comforting us, but it's compounding a debt crisis. And rather than finding better ways to resolve that feeling of discomfort, we're compounding and continuing to spend into, for some people, in oblivion. There could be a very oblivious spending. Also, a sort of oblivious problem solving, maybe like a blind or oblivious problem solving here. And the thing is it's not just like, we're not talking about the future. We're talking about, I think, something that has been in effect for years for a lot of people and has just come to a point where it's going to have to change in December. I also think there's somewhat of a cognitive dissonance issue with this transit. Something has been really like jammed into acceptance, I want to say, with the feeling of December. So we maybe have things we haven't liked for a long time that we've, some people have maybe gaslit themselves in order to like accept it, or some people have employed a lot of cognitive dissonance to accept it. And now it's hard not to accept it because of that long-term programming. So we have maybe also chaotic results of long-term programming. Also, I feel like certain gaslighting could break during this time. Certain, cognitive dissonance loops could break too. So like I've enforced myself to accept this circumstance through a lot of like maybe negative self-thought or self-dialogue. And now that just doesn't work anymore. And my body is in revolt to a certain circumstance. There's this feeling of like a revolt, I think, at a very mental and psychological level, as again, we're talking the Gemini and Sagittarius axis, which has to do with philosophy, communication, thoughts, ideas, mental, logical space. So I want to really prepare you guys, for yourself, but also for this possibility of having people around you that, try to not pressurize things further. I think that will be the most important thing. Like, be very careful about putting pressure onto another person. Some people are going to feel like they need to do it. Like, I need this person to do what makes me feel comfortable, and I'm going to put all the pressure in the world on them to like adhere to my comfort zone. And this can cause like explosions. This can cause all kinds of systemic deterioration, as I think that these systems are so delicate that they can't afford pressure. So I would depressurize most of anything that you can. Especially in the relationship sphere, where it's not like maybe contractual obligations, because, sometimes with our work obligations or things relating to like job or business, those things can't just be, immediately worked around in such a comfortable way. I am feeling like a lot of people have some remaining obligations from Pluto and Capricorn, and it's going to take quite a bit of time into Pluto and Aquarius before those really fade away. Now, another feeling that December is going to really introduce, and this is going to be something that I think goes forward for all of 2025, is this chance to go back or forward. So we have these loops of cognitive dissonance dissolving. We have certain systemic destruction happening as well. We have a lot of obligations also that can't be met, and a lot of things just collapsing because of pressure, like kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back type of situations. Because of this is going to like bring forward a lot of obvious crossroads. Okay, are we going backward or forward? Are we going like left or right? Are we flying above? Maybe it's not so two-dimensional where it's just like simple to understand the directions either, but there's gonna be a very clear feeling, especially like late December getting into January. It's like, okay, here you have this. You don't have to stay, but also like you could. And there's just going to be a very obvious kind of decision. I think that all of this chaotic energy will produce very quickly. And because we also have like Neptune going direct this month, We will be having, and that's moving back towards the anaretic degree of Pisces, back towards the cusp of Pisces and Aries. That's going to also kind of compound this feeling of, are we looking back to the past or are we moving forward? There will be some kind of liminal feeling as well, 1 foot in and 1 foot out for a lot of people. And that's going to require us to really analyze what is best in the long term. And what I have written down also comparing what is best in the long term to what seems now frazzled and out of place, right? It's a very frazzling kind of energy here. So keep your radar open to that as well. Is this a good long-term thing to keep going in my life? Or does this seem kind of like frazzled and out of place? As that will also, I think, really help people to reappropriate some of their focus and actually come through this transit with a better placed attention grid. I also have written down, don't be afraid to veto or to not accept certain things too. I do think that a lot of the reason why things have gotten this difficult for a lot of people in December, and don't worry, it's not going to push much past December because of this, what's happening here. A lot of it is because people have like no boundaries, and people have an inability to really like say no sometimes, or to not accept certain things that are more pressurized than they should be. And I think that it's only really through, in some cases, these veto moves or these boundary expressions that peace and tranquility can return. However, is it what we want? There will be definitely people who, are kind of displeased with peace and displeased with, a tranquil feeling, which is then very kind of warlike and militant energy that we see there. And people have this like romance with violence or romance with destruction. And that will be, I think, also a big decision that people have to make inside, like, which path do I want? There, we're getting to this sort of crossroads energy again, like, because it's so easy to choose here, war or peace at both very micro and macro levels. But there's a lot of anger. So angry people is something I had written down, because we also will be having, Mars go retrograde in Leo this month. It is their burden, okay? It's not really anyone else's. So there's going to have to be a simple realization, like if you are having anger, like I realize that I have anger and I need to understand what has caused that. And I don't really need it to be more complicated than that. Okay, because there's this romance with anger thing. There's this like perpetuating of anger and perpetuating of inflammation. Okay, I could also see this at a physical body level. Like this is sort of the energy of like an autoimmune disease or like a blood pressure problem. All right, there's this sort of perpetual degradation of the nervous system that once it starts, it wants to compound itself. So like this is where we have to really make higher level soul choices. Okay. Do I just want to compound and degrade my nervous system? Or do I want to choose, a better feeling? Or do I want to choose a path of healing? Okay. Which is not something that feels good. All right. And that's something else I would like to remind people here. Healing does bring about relief, especially once you're on the other side of it. But healing at first does not feel good. When a bone is broken and it's set back into place, that doesn't feel good. And if you expected it to feel good or demanded it to feel good, that would never be healed. Okay. And then it would compound and get to a point where, things have to be like amputated or something. So I don't mean to freak people out with that strong verbiage, but a lot of people are going to have to understand that to heal or to like have problems resolved, there's going to be discomfort in the beginning. It's easier to fill the cavity than it is to pull the tooth or do the root canal. Once corruption or degradation or darkness compounds, it gets to a point where it, if it's not healed or if the slight discomfort is not accepted, things get to a really much worse point, and it becomes much more difficult to deal with them. And there's a lot of people who won't want to hear that, or who won't want to accept that, or will just kind of cover their ears and continue on the bad path, okay, because that feels better right now. And that's going to have to be a point where we get very mature and we get very resolute with ourselves, and we start to set better time boundaries, right? We're going from Sag to Capricorn here. Also a part of the 2025 year cycle is going to have a lot to do with this date, this time comes about, and that problem is resolved. And for some people, I'm seeing like they've got to essentially have that cavity filled, or they've got to have that surgery before things get worse, and they have to understand, like, I have to do this by then. And it's also not about rushing recklessly into these things either. It's about balance, right? We still have the South Node in Libra. I think it's so interesting that Pluto changed signs on the Scorpio-Sagittarius cusp, and it was right during the South Node in Libra, and also during this Jupiter-Mercury situation. There's just a lot of, like, at every level, a resounding message of, like, you can't be extreme and polarized in how you move forward in these situations. You have got to take a little bit from all of your knowledge and wisdom bank, and you've got to apply it, not too heavily, but also not apply it. You've got to apply these things in a balanced way, and I think we all know what that looks like. And we all have the ability to access that, but we have to be able to make higher executive decisions that overrule certain impulses, certain anger, certain also addictive cycles. And, it's just going to be very important, I think, to prove to ourselves that we can actually do that. It seems like a period of time also where things just really have to be written out. I'm seeing some people, it's just so over-focused certain things, and then to almost just like write it out would alleviate it or make one have like a realization, okay, I don't really need to over-focus that. Like, I kind of understand why this happened. This is not like that. This is a very like obvious thing that would happen based on that previous chain of events. Because there's a lot of people who want the waterfall flowing upward dynamic. They want the mystery or the mystique or the, unreal, ungravitational thing to happen. And we have to get into better tune with gravity with these current transits. We've got a lot of transits. The Jupiter-Mercury thing, the Neptune-Saturn situation, even the Pluto into Aquarius. It's a lot of romanticization, and it's not even romanticization. It's a lot of disregarding of physics, I want to call it, and a certain assuaging to impulses and emotions and visions that are not correlatable with the physical reality. So we don't want to fall into disillusionment. We don't want to become delusional people. We don't want to have perpetuating cycles of grief and anger compounded by our own choices every single day, very consciously. Okay, we don't want that. We want real lives. And I think like a lot of people have to kind of take a certain load off their shoulders and easily give that to themselves. Because it does feel very easy to like leave December of 2024 knowing that a lot of those complexes or stories or, constant conflict cycles and loops are just behind us. And this should be something that is relieving, not something that we pull forward any more than we have to. As I feel that because of the challenging nature of this time, I feel that there are a lot of opportunities for new beginnings, and a lot of opportunities also for a lot of support from God, support from the universe, because of just how challenging things are. But it feels less supportive if we're enforcing it onto ourselves or if we're ourselves compounding the issue. So there has to, I think, really be like a reaching out and a trust, and also a want for freshness and a want for, physical and mental emotional health. That's going to be a big test in December for some people, as they might not realize that some of their gestures and actions, whether they believe it in their head or not that they want certain things, the actual actions sometimes are indicative of not really wanting to do well or to be better. And a sort of self-limiting process could be something that's really under heavy attack during this time by some kind of quantum energy that I feel very strongly in this time. I can't really word it right, but it's hard here to be too self-limiting. It's hard here to not trust, because this is a very powerful new beginning with Pluto and Aquarius now, obviously. And that's also going to be coming in 2026 with the Neptune, Saturn, and Aries. So we're not quite there. We're in this kind of like liminal phase. So I understand why people are kind of like between, old stories and new stories and not knowing whether to commit to like stability or innovation or, it's so hard. But like obviously time is going to move, and we're definitely moving towards a fresher and very different context over the next few years. But anyway, let's go ahead and pull the charts up onto the screen and talk through some of the specific astrology really quickly. Okay, on the left chart, we have the first of the month, and on the right chart, we have the last day of the month. What I just wanted to highlight, first off, we're starting the beginning of the month with this new moon in Sagittarius. And I do think that even though we have these challenging Sagittarius-Gemini transits, it's going to give us a boost of energy. And I think that a lot of people are going to get confident to finally be wrapping up some of the stories and to really like blast off to the next story. There's going to be kind of, I think, an invigoration coming in the beginning of December. And I think that first week of December is going to be the most important time, and you can really do yourself a lot of favors. Definitely, like I said, come and check out a free trial to my Patreon page where I talk about each week in advance, because that first week we're going to have to really dig in to that hope and potential, and I'm going to like work in the weekly forecast for that week to really harvest all of and extract the appropriate energy, because through the beginning of December, you can really boost yourself to overcome a lot of the pain that the 2024 and density, more so density than it is pain, that the 2024 year cycle has brought up. I also feel that the beginning of the month is going to kind of impress us with our potential too. There's inspiration there. There is an understanding of potential. But, later in the month when we get to the Jupiter-Saturn squares exactly, it's going to be offset with like, okay, this is the potential, this is the inspiration, but here is also like the reality and the long-running context, which has been such a kind of dense feeling for all of 2024. And those Jupiter-Saturn squares, I mean, we're just like halfway through that, because you have to remember we had the first one in August of 2024. Then there's this one happening on December 24th, 2024. And then there'll be another one on June 15th, 2025. And then that will break up. If that's playing in your chart, the thing about that transit is it's actually doing everything for you. It's resolving things across a bunch of lines, but it's also going to highlight every single crack and every single snag. And it's going to also reveal any conflicted thought patterns, which most people have right now. And it's going to show, it's just not going to cover up any of the holes. And there are going to be like a lot of maybe holes in the knowledge for some people, or a lot of gaps that have to be worked on. And that is hard, but it's also going to, because of the polar kind of difference between Jupiter and Gemini and Saturn and Pisces, it's going to give you the chance to work along multiple lines at once, which will get you ahead in the long term. And all of December is charged with that kind of energy. I also feel it's very important with this transit, and the Jupiter-Saturn squares specifically, is to really layer things better. Things could not be layered properly, so there are maybe different like problems that we have to solve at different layers. So it's like at one layer, I don't know, for example, in your material context, there's maybe like some kind of problem that needs to be solved, but that same problem is not at a different layer in your life, which might be like your self-actualization or your goals. All right, so it's like on one hand, you have to keep working towards goals, but you also have like a material problem to solve, and you have to be able to work on multiple layers in order to get through this time without feeling like something has really lost momentum, or like something has sort of been over-focused again. Now, yes, December 6th, we have Mars going retrograde in Leo. Okay, yes, that is going to really bring people, again, face-to-face with their feelings and their emotions, and also how they've been able to outwardly express their feelings or their aggressions. It could become like a very aggressive energy, but because it's retrograde, this could turn inward. So you might want to, I don't know, for some people, maybe anger management could be good here, certain types of therapy. Anything that has a relaxing or a relieving margin about it. Any types of also New Age therapies could also be effective, right? With Pluto and Mars being on axis here between Aquarius and Leo. I also think it's an identity crisis coming into vision for a lot of people, and they might have to begin asking, who am I now? Am I stale in my self-concept? Am I seeing myself in the appropriate way for the direction that I'm going, or am I enforcing some type of ego? Okay, ego crisis with Pluto opposite Mars on Leo and Aquarius axis. A lot of people are going to have ego identity crises here, and they're going to have to figure it out themselves. They're going to have to maybe get to know themselves better. I feel like there's something about this astrology right now where people are over-imposing a past identity onto themselves, or they might be falling into old ways. That could happen here. And I feel that some people have gotten out of touch with themselves. There are a lot of transits right now, also with Pluto changing sign. The collective identity is changing. So this is very much a matter with Saturn and Pisces too, of time has passed, different situations have occurred, and we have to adapt, right? We've had these like mutable cross, mutable T-square situations coming up. So like, one can't employ an excuse like I just can't adapt, or I'm just like, I'm just someone who struggles to do that. One must adapt because that's also a human experience. There are seasons, and there are, nature has to adapt. The trees have to shed their leaves. They have to grow new leaves. So seriously, what we're also facing here in December 2024 is like either adapt or compound discomfort in your life. Okay. At a certain point, also, the tree cannot refuse to shed its leaves. So the more it psychs itself out about it, the more it suffers. Or it could just shed the leaves, and that can be joyful too. The trees really enjoy it, actually. Some don't, and this is funny, like actually some trees struggle with it more than others, and some really enjoy it. And I think it's the same with humans. When we go through loss or we go through grief, some people actually feel relief. Some people have a breakup and they feel relieved about it, and some people have a breakup and they have to grieve for the rest of their lives about it. That is nature too. But I hope that you guys will allow relief, because that's what this mutable energy of this time really wants through adaptation. It does not want it to be painful. It does not want it to be it doesn't want it to be a grief-stricken adaptation. So I also see with these transits right now that if people are in severe amounts of pain, or they don't at least have hope in the way that things are eventually changing and that possibly being a good outcome, this is going to just be some type of devotion to pain and suffering. Whether that's conscious or unconscious, I don't know. But that could also be something that really comes to the surface here. Is like, okay, I am struggling to allow these changes to be relieving or positive. I don't want relief or positivity in my life. There's going to be a lot of people there. And that it can go the opposite way as well. Like I'm unwilling to not accept or to veto. I'm unwilling to say no. And what I'm realizing is like, I'm just, either consciously or unconsciously pursuing boundarylessness. Okay. Being totally unsolid as a person. So there are these things that are getting to a point with a lot of people where it's so compounded and it just becomes obvious, and it just becomes like the reality and the material situation. But what's so good about that is once it's so material and realized, I think there's a lot more ability to work with it or get the heck away from it. Okay, that could be good for some people here. Getting the heck away from it is a very powerful feeling with a mutable T-square or cross, and it really gives a lot of doors. So if you have anything in your life that's like causing you turmoil, causing you trauma, causing you pain and grief, well, oh, look, there's a door right there. Yet we're still remaining. What is that saying about our impulse grids and our executive function? Well, maybe there's a problem. And yeah, maybe we're going to have to develop quite long healing journeys around healing executive function. That's going to be a big thing in 2025, as certain people through like addiction, tech, media will be talking about this in the future on this channel. hit the subscribe button below and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss that dialogue, whether it comes in these next few videos or into 2025. Some people's brains are just kind of injured and the executive function doesn't work well, because of the current, quantum social, is that a word? I don't know, like quantum social dynamics that really have us revolving around technology, scrolling, doom scrolling, and then also addictive components in like the food supply and caffeine and things like that, and sugar, and then also higher level addictions like, any of those higher level ones. So all of that works together. It's a comprehensive reality that we're in, and that's why it's so easy to just sit and compound problems, because it's so overwhelming to a lot of people to see, this is entrenched with 1,000 different connecting points, and I have to understand. That's another great thing about this Jupiter-Mercury debilitated mutual reception. It can destroy matrices, okay? And I got to say, some of these need to go. So that could be a positive way that this transit works too, is some people are going to buck off and kick off a certain matrix that is like contributing to a kind of like just unexecutive, functionable kind of soupy reality. And a misery can be kicked off during this time too. But there can be collateral damage to that as well, because this is a very debilitated transit. But, it would also not be possible, I think, to disconnect from some of the negative, dense structures without, some damage here. But maybe that's worth it. So we also have margins to think about. What does it cost in order to gain health and freedom? I don't know. Is there too high of a price tag to put on health? I don't think so. So consider that as well. Am I keeping, a few dollars in my bank account to not have health? Also, am I keeping a relationship or some type of habitual way of thinking about life or habitual way of emoting? Am I allowing these types of things also to destroy my life, or to destroy relationships, or to destroy, certain elements of peace? Like this type of transit is going to destroy the matrix, I think, that supports some of these. And when I say matrix, we're talking quantum connecting points. We're talking fields. I'm not talking, social or infrastructural, but I suppose that there could be, those tied up into it. But I'm really talking like our thought patterns and our neurology and our collective neurology that has the current homeostasis or lack thereof ingrained. Speaking of matrices that are really positive, I want to introduce you to my Patreon page, linked below. So on Sky's Patreon, yes, we have weekly forecasts that go up every single Saturday. We have monthly sign-by-signs, which are not available here on YouTube. These are all available with a monthly membership, and a free trial is also in effect for a limited time, meaning that you can try that service and get all of that premium content without even buying, which I think is a very generous offer, because that is meant to be premium content. But I think that a lot of people just don't consider it. Patreon is such a wonderful UI. I'm so grateful to Patreon. I'm so grateful for that service. And for those of you who don't want a membership, yes, a lot of the posts are now available for purchase on demand. So that's a way to also just get it when you feel it, if you're not wanting to commit forever. But yes, you can also cancel your membership easily at any time. I am just doing a full-on spiel for Patreon right now, as that is what makes this channel possible. Yes, these structures like Google AdSense are no longer able to fund production for these channels. So it's very difficult to be an independent creator during this time. So I invite you all over to Patreon, and I invite you to enjoy that and having that at your fingertips all the time for a very reasonable price. Very reasonable. Also with free trials and purchase on demand functionality. I'm really trying to deliver for you all in a way that works for everybody. And I recommend that you come over and get that membership in December, especially if you use iPhone, because I believe in January they're rolling out extra fees. But if you get the membership before then, you don't have to pay the extra Apple Store fees or something. I will have to look back to the Patreon announcement about that. But yeah, December is going to be the best month for you guys to sign up to my Patreon page if you're on the fence, especially if you use Apple or App Store to download Patreon. First of all, you get the free trial that saves, and then you also don't get the App Store fees in the future. And if you sign up in 2025 and beyond, I think there will be extra App Store fees tacked on. So now is the time, you all. Public service announcement. Now is the time to join Sky's Patreon page. The Patreon page is not going anywhere. I have some people reach out to me and saying I'm not going to support that because I think that if I do, you won't put the stuff back on YouTube in the future. Or what they mean is like maybe if they don't support the Patreon page, that some of that content will return to YouTube. It will not as long as YouTube is in this current buildup, and that's on you. That power is in YouTube's hands. That power is not in my hands. As long as we're in this current regime. And Sky's continuing on this path. Patreon is non-negotiable. Patreon has to happen for the funding of the production of this channel. Patreon is not just about putting money into creators' hands. It's actually about funding the production, which has a high cost. I think a lot of people might not understand that in order to fund production for a YouTube channel that has more than 100,000 subscribers, it's very expensive. And I can't help that we have Silicon Valley and we have this current economic structure. I know all about that at a political science, economic science level, but I certainly as an individual don't have power over it. I'm only working within it. And as long as this current system is in this current phase, which I don't know how long that will be, Patreon will be what it is. And of course I may change what content is on Patreon in the future. But no, Patreon is not going to be canceled out, and stuff cannot come back to YouTube just because the channel would go into a deficit. And I'm not a government, so I can't run a business that operates on a deficit. So it seriously is kind of like a lifeline support structure that makes the difference to whether this is possible or not. So I appreciate with all my heart those of you who have come over to Patreon and who have subscribed to it for a long time. Thank you. And I am working so hard to keep free content available here on YouTube, doing these weekly videos. They're long, and also then making the Patreon subscription affordable. Right now, the lowest tier is $5 a month. The tier that I recommend at this time of filming is $12 per month, and that gives pretty much everything. Okay, and it's like 16 or 17 premium contents per month. That's like basically every other day. You could consider that like having premium content that is just right at your fingertips. There's no ads like there are here on YouTube. So that's another way that you pay on YouTube. Like if you just watch things for free on YouTube, you pay with your time through watching the advertisements. And those advertisements, like what creators get, is not very, it's a small percentage of what it yields. And then unless you have like a multi-million channel, I can't imagine that one could really make it economically viable. So that just is the status of this industry right now. And rather than going and get a bunch of sponsorships, or rather than signing up with some kind of agency, I've chosen to remain independent, which I think is beneficial for everyone listening to this channel, because that means that it's independent thought. It is not serving any specific, corporation or brand. And at the same time, though, that means I have to independently fund the production of the channel. And there aren't a lot of, like corporate dollars like flowing into that to just make that sort of a non-issue. So right now the answer is Patreon. And I recommend every single person watching this channel to go over and check it out. If you don't like the free trial, cancel it. It's no loss. Also, if you don't like the first month, you don't have to stay. But I definitely think that most people end up wanting to stay. And it ends up being a really good value. I have so many people on Patreon who reach out saying, oh, gosh, I wish I would have gotten this earlier. This is one of the most valuable things that I spend money on. I really work on creating therapeutic, healing, ad-free, premium content over there. And it's such a joy for me because it makes this possible. And I'm just so appreciative of everyone over there. So that's my long spiel for Patreon. There is a link in the description box, also the pinned comment below. And I'm really trying to get that buttoned up in December, because I know in January they're introducing these new App Store fees only for people but who use iPhone, I think, or Apple Store. But if you have the membership before, what I've been told is that those fees will not apply. So it's small. It's like a tiny little processing fees, but you never know what small things will make people not want to participate in something. So anyway, everyone, December 2024, thank you so much for being here on my YouTube channel. I love YouTube. I'm so grateful to YouTube. I'm so grateful for the chance to have this channel. And as a means of connecting with people and connecting with audience, it's just something that's so special. And I'm so appreciative for all of you who are here, who like, comment, subscribe. That is supportive in such an important way. But yes, you've gotten a little bit of a spiel for what it's like to also economically be in this space, which is a totally layers, right? Like we were talking about in the video, there are layers. There is the connectivity point, which has nothing to do with economy, which is so special to me. Then there's the economic layer of it. And then there's quite a few other layers as well. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much. So much love to you all. Good luck in December. Come attend the live premieres on every Friday. It will be Friday the 6th. I'm not sure which video we're doing on that day, but the 13th is Global Dynamics for the final chapter of 2024. December 20th is 2025 year ahead forecasts for all signs. It's going to be multi-hour, wonderful premiere. Lots of incredible insights coming up. 2025 is a bombshell year. Okay, it's going to be wild. It's going to be unforgettable. It's going to be just like life-changing in so many ways. And we're going to talk about that for the collective and then for each sign on the 20th. And then, yes, we will conclude our live premiere season. And yes, there will not be free trials to Patreon either after that point in time. So come check it out. Join my mailing list. Join there are free offerings on Patreon as well. You can have a free membership there too, even if you don't want to subscribe with the membership. I'm on social media. Everything's below. Have a beautiful December. Much love, everyone. Bye.